today talking with Dr. David Livermore. He's the author of Leading with Cultural Intelligence. Dr. Livermore just graced the Big Frontier crowd with a presentation on this book wherein he discussed issues that are germane to anyone doing business internationally or anyone who's interested in understanding how to interact with other cultures, such as the United States Army, for example, or any number of the representatives of the U.S. who are going abroad to do business. Dr. Livermore, could you give us a quick synopsis of what the CQ theory is and how it's been put into practice?
Yeah, essentially, cultural intelligence is interested in saying how do you help people just develop an overall skill set in being adaptable and flexible. And so for a long time, people have understood that culture impacts the way they do business, the way government works, but sometimes people have been overwhelmed because there's this approach that says you have to master all this information. And so the key difference here is we're saying there's an actual capability somebody can develop that they can apply in any different kind of cultural context that's there.
Now, Dr. Livermore, as we have expanded our reach in terms of doing business globally, you can see this with the rise of the internet and more communication. We have people who are having their websites and their companies built offshore. Mm-hmm. We've created a new necessity to being able to understand these other cultures to further our own business goals. What have been some of the major common shortfalls you've seen in how Americans have had to deal with people, say in India, in China, other parts of the world where we're now pretty heavily invested?
Yeah, I think one of the assumptions has often been that because they're doing business with us, they'll just automatically acquiesce to what our cultural norms are. And many times, because saving face is such a high value in a place like India or China, they may not even communicate to us that we're not being effective in that. So sometimes it's just an overall lack of awareness of what's going on. So that's a key thing that we've seen with a lot of people who are involved in offshoring that's related to that. And I just had an interesting conversation with someone in Singapore a few weeks ago who served as one of their foreign ambassadors in the Middle East for a number of years. And he said there were always two sets of conversations that happened, one when the Americans were in the room and one when they left the room. And so it's kind of how do we get an ear towards some of those things that were said after we left the room to understand what maybe the real opinions were about what it's like to do business with us.